right, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys, One Level, where two guys talk about all things gaming. I'm your host, Tortuga, accompanied by Pixel.
Welcome everyone to another episode here. Glad to have you guys. A couple things going on this week. Probably starting it on the more lighthearted note. As we start to get closer to New York Comic Con, the first kind of hint of news came out from over there. So for anyone who is interested, we'll be getting the first trailer for the upcoming Super Mario movie on October 6th, right at a
That's
Comic Con.
that's cool.
Yep, no, kind of excited. As things as we get closer to those dates, they always like to, roll out the teasers, from um, game content to video game movies, right? Everything kind of pop culture related from that aspect. Um, and as we get closer, they always kind of start leaking a little bit or making these minor announcements to build up the hype for their respective panels. So, kind of curious. Hopefully, with the October episodes, we'll be able to give you guys some more content from that aspect.
So everything's on track on the Super Smash Bros. Live action movie.
Sure. I mean, that'll be something to see for sure.
Well, I
Um,
mean, we had Pikachu, Sonic, now we have Mario and Luigi, Peach.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually the Detective Pikachu 2. I want to say game, which was announced like in 2019. Apparently, is on track to be released soon as well. If anyone's interested, in that,
I mean, that's cool.
that is cool.
But
Nintendo's been throwing out a lot of hits. With their recent direct, a lot of them have been pretty dull down for the most part. But like we mentioned in the last episode, the latest direct was like just jam packed with a lot of their heavy hitters, and so I'm sure they're just gonna keep it up. Especially these publishers and developers are gonna want to have everything out for the upcoming holiday season.
yeah, I mean, Nintendo is doing what Nintendo does best, right? They feed in on the nostalgia, and it's always around the holidays. All the gaming uh, parts of this industry. That's what they do. These next 3 months is just you're going to see a bunch of deals. You're going to see a lot of releases. So it's not new, but it is exciting. Gives us something to look forward to.
Really surprised Nintendo doesn't own um, NetherRealm Studios, because they can just say your soul is mine. Because once you go down that Nintendo rabbit hole, they will grab you one way or another.
And not for nothing, but I mean, I think everything they've been making has been pretty high quality. They've been doing a really good job with all the things that they've been releasing, and they even with the new this new Pokemon game that's coming out in a couple months. So far, everything they've released, it seems like they're advancing kind of the tech behind how the world works. So you got to imagine how it was with 2D on Game Boy to where we're at now, and it's going to be an open world game, like a true open world game, not what we had with Arceus. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. I'm looking forward to it, but and I know that other franchises have advanced just the same. The Mario series, the Kirby series, right? So Nintendo has been keeping up with the times, so to speak. Look what they did with Zelda. And so as I don't know, as each iteration of a game comes out, they just seem to throw in a bit more advanced features, and it seems to play well with the theme of that, world or universe.
It does, especially when you think of these games, right? Starting from their Game Boy or Nintendo or Super Nintendo releases, they followed a particular formula up until that point. When you take a look at Metroid, I think is a perfect example. Something that was absolutely born in the 2D space, evolving into a first-person shooter with
Right.
Metroid Prime, right? So you had that trilogy. You take a look at Mario, Mario went from a 2D platform to a 3D platformer, and even with the partnership they have with Ubisoft with the Mario Rabbids game.
Yeah.
Mario's is now strategy game like XCOM. You know,
Right. Hmm.
so not only are these games evolving while maintaining a good amount of flair or personality from their release, but they're also evolving and branching off. So there's always going to be that ability to take those things and transform them while keeping the core personality of their characters. I think is definitely a talent that Nintendo has in that aspect.
And I mean, just to wrap it up, the fact that back in those days, especially with like Mario, for example, there wasn't a real way to give lore, right? There wasn't much dialogue. It was just gameplay. You just traveled 8 worlds and you killed Bowser at the end of it, right? Not much was really explained of, what is Princess Peach to Mario in
Hmm.
those early days. What is Toad's reason for being there? The relationship between Mario and Yoshi and Luigi, and none of that was really explained in those days. Period. It was just you just played it. You knew the objective was to go from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, and there was a bad guy waiting for you once you got to the castles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, to where we are now, where there's just so much depth to it. Because I feel safe to say that they didn't have all of that laid out when they made Mario back in the day. They knew they needed a good guy, a bad guy, and some friends in between. And then they just made some side scrollers that a lot of people enjoyed. It was one of the more enjoyable games in that time. So it just another thing to note.
No, definitely. And kind of backpacking off of the original uh, iterations of these games. There was a recent job listing by Ubisoft um, for Splinter Cell. So we got a bit of an inkling that they are essentially remaking the original Splinter Cell, and they're trying to make it for a more modern day audience, is how they quoted it. So the job listing revealed that the story is being redone to bring the first game, that original adventure, into the new era of gaming, which should work fine for them. To be honest, the actual story for Splinter Cell, I don't even think really started gaining traction until the second game, and it was still pretty loose. It wasn't until the third game, Chaos Theory, in my opinion, where they really got their bearings on how to tell that sort of sci-fi ish, kind of like Jack Ryan. If you've ever watched any of those, so very curious to see what they're going to do with as far as the gameplay core mechanics, because they were pretty solid in their last game, Blacklist, Splinter Cell Blacklist. So curious to see how they're going to bring those stealth, darkness and light mechanics into the new era here.
That's exciting. I know you're a huge Splinter Cell fans. As long as they include an option to go balls to the wall crazy, I'd play it. But if it's 100% stealth, I might
Yeah,
as well give the game off.
so the first three games were not like that at all. There were things like you only had, again, they're trying to make it for a modern day audience, so they may very well flip the entire script on this. But you did have like a certain number of alarms that you could set, no bodies to be found, things of that nature. Um, so for the first three games, they were nothing like Conviction or Blacklist, where you can go balls to the wall, as you mentioned. But who knows? Like I said, they're remaking it, so who knows how they'll switch it up from there.
Very cool. Well, we'll see. It you know every time you tell me that they're starting a new project at Ubisoft, it just hurts because it means less resources towards Beyond Good and Evil 2.
That game, I actually throughout the week I was just doing some research, seeing what's going on, and I watched I think they had a 2017 and a 2018 gameplay or announcements, and rewatching them both this day and age, my hype train kind of started rolling again. Um,
They
so
did a really good job with those two trailers to
they
kind of
did.
showcase what they're planning on bringing. Yeah.
So, and it was from everything from the core kind of um, movement mechanics, some of the combat, some of the space flight. The space flight is the only one that really has been concerned because I was able to compare them to Star Citizen, and they how similar they are in certain aspects. And even though I'm pretty sure Star Citizen is like at $1 billion and it's still not out right now,
Yeah.
the Ubisoft one actually did look better. And it might be because it's not taking so many realistic components,
Hmm.
and so that very well might be the case, making it a little more arcadey from that aspect. But still, even back then it was beautiful. It was pleasant to see, good colors. So very curious to see for the final product, final project completed on this.
Yeah. I think the space travel mechanic in Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to be heavily automated. It's going to be more so you pick a direction of where you want to go and you kind of just point towards that, towards the map, and you travel there. I do think that they might go with like a real time kind of like travel thing. Like it might take a couple minutes to go from system to system, or they might have like jumps set in place where the same thing where it's quote unquote loading while you're doing your jump, um, similar to Elite Dangerous. And then once you arrive to that system, then you just travel at whatever speed your ship can get to, can navigate. I just I don't know. There's just something about the way they laid out that game that I just can't wait to dive into because I know you start off as nothing. You don't have
Hmm.
access to a ship that can traverse the universe, right? You start off with your feet, and you just do odd jobs, and eventually you save up for a next mode of transportation, with then open up newer jobs. Now that you can travel, and then you can buy an airship that can't leave the planet, but opens up more travel, and eventually you can get a ship that you can then start recruiting people to go ahead and start servicing your medical, your food, your engineering, your flight, your weapons. Like, and you just start amassing a crew from the NPCs you encounter in the world. I mean, it's just, I don't know, having
Yeah,
a game like that is that intertwines so much and it builds on so much that you do on the beginning. I don't know. It's just it calls to me for some reason.
it does, it has to be the progression that they're offering. You think of World of Warcraft, which you enjoy. I think kind of falls in that similar aspect, right? You go, you do your questing. From the questing, you do the dungeons, and then from mix of dungeons, questing, and then you go raiding, all to kind of get equipment or items. So I feel like in that similar fashion, that
Sure.
progression is really what's gonna gather a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand completely, thinking of what's a game like it um something like Age of Empires, let's say, right? So it's more of a PvE PvP kind of thing, but even from there you start with just a couple villagers, so you got to build your villages, your defenses, your offenses, your technology, so all of that to become the best, and the first one to kind of initiate all that combat. So to bring that progression is probably just releasing that dopamine that we're looking for. That's all that it's got to be.
Yeah, it gives you that sense of accomplishment. You got it done. Good job. I mean, you're not wrong. That is what makes those type of games very addicting. I've said it many times. Blizzard have figured out the formula to cash in on addiction. Um,
100%.
so as long as Ubisoft doesn't make Beyond Good and Evil 2 very grindy, and I understand that there'll have to be some grind, but if it gets to the point where I need to grind for a month for like a 3% upgrade, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, so they actually had that problem with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So they had some bases that your base essentially that you had to upgrade, if you wanted. It was all optional, but obviously it would be better if you did. So I didn't play it, but my brother-in-law was telling me that you would need like 12,000 wood to upgrade something. Yeah, you would only get like one or two from a tree.
Bruh, nah,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah. So they did get a lot of backlash for that. Some people love it. I definitely would not. um,
Yeah, that's too
that's just
much. Like 30, 40. All right. I'm with you, you know. It's still
I'll
not great,
I'll
but
give you I'll give you a
jeez.
hundred before I completely uninstall your game. But yeah, apparently they were like in the thousands for like materials, and you would get like nothing um from that, from whatever mining wood, however they collected it.
Yeah, yeah. That's wild. No. That's too much. It's just,
It is too much.
as an adult now, I don't need a second job for something that's not physically actually going to pay me. you know,
You know what?
understand it's entertainment, but at the same time, I have actual responsibilities and I can't commit to the grind anymore.
Exactly. So, Black Desert apparently is like that, and even Final Fantasy 14, like you basically have to live in those worlds, literal sword art
World of
online
Warcraft too.
status.
Yeah, World of Warcraft too. Don't let it misguide you. If you're trying to be in the on the top of the food chain when it comes to PVE rating, rating, or even PvP arenas, you need to grind almost every day for hours just to
Right.
stay on top, just to complete those dailies and those weeklies and get the materials you need to just stay relevant. Because you also need to start farming for your elixirs, for your food, for anything really to upgrade your gear. Because that's what it comes down to. And you do whatever it is that you have to do. Sometimes you have to grind reputation, and that's the worst grind in my opinion
That
because
is
it's
the worst grind.
so slow moving. Yeah. So as long as it doesn't need to be exalted, because sometimes you have to be exalted with a certain faction, so that a certain object from a store of a guy in that faction can open up to you to purchase. Like it becomes overwhelming, and you have to commit so much time and energy just for a small upgrade to potentially make it to the top of whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's too much. I mean, there's plenty of people that do it, and more power to them. It's just I can't commit to that level of grind. I can quest to get to the level I need to unlock dungeons or raids, what have you, play the game essentially. But once you need me to start doing extracurricular activities, or you're gonna lose me.
And not even that, but taking a look at the dungeons and raids where you have to pray to RNGesus and
Yeah,
hope you get that additional RMPs, that additional
yeah.
chest to get that power level higher. The what is it, item level, right?
I item level, but that's part of the charm, right? That's where the gambling addiction thing that they kick
Hmm.
in. You put in the work, and you're like, all right, we're gonna fight this boss for the next 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 minutes. Maybe this is my chance, and then, and when it hits, you get like you said that dopamine level goes up a little bit. And you're like, all right, this game's so good in my book.
But it's true. Yeah, that dopamine is definitely a big part of it. And speaking of the those looking for that extra dopamine, got some good news for anyone who's looking forward to a Steam Deck, um, or anyone who might be just looking to acquire any additional. So the production capacity at Valve is at a point where they're going to be able to fulfill all reservations by the end of the year. So there is possible that you'll just be able to buy it, buy the Steam Deck outright without having to put yourself on some sort of waiting list.
That's cool. I have been seeing nothing but praise for the Steam Deck. Uh, to quote a few things that I've seen, that the Steam Deck is what the Nintendo Switch should have been or could have been. Um, and a lot of it's just been it just is an amazing job to have a portable gaming device to play AAA games, quadruple A games seamlessly and flawlessly without headache. It's phenomenal what they were able to do with such a small device.
And yeah, nothing but praise. I think the worst thing you hear about this thing is going to be the battery life, which is to be
Right.
expected. You know,
Right.
you're a lot of resource into this thing, but
Yeah.
I mention them from time to time. But Neon Cyber Samurai, he ended up getting one, and he has basically stopped using his computer. Um, so he can go about the house. If he has some extra time at work, he can boot up anything essentially from his Steam library and just play it there. There are games that aren't even optimized for the Steam Deck that run amazingly well without being Steam Deck
That's great.
certified.
Yeah.
So, it's just minor things like that to just kind of show how big of a powerhouse that Valve is. There's even been like little inklings and rumors that they're ramping up game development as well.
Their own games this time.
The Valve games, yep. So straight up Valve
Ooh,
games.
Half-Life
So
3 confirmed.
that's it. Gabe just pushed it back another 6 months.
That's
But yeah, so that's it's kind of curious because there's a game that they actually did come out for the Steam Deck, but it's more of like a tutorial for the Steam Deck. I don't know if you saw it, the Aperture Desktop.
No, but I'm assuming it's the same thing that Sony did with the PlayStation 5, that little robotic
That
thing.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this one's just like one of the portal robots, kind of, in that
Gotcha.
there. So people could not give enough praise to this thing. They were playing it like a full game because of how amazing
That's
it was.
amazing.
And it's,
That's
and it's
amazing.
super
Yeah.
short. It's on like 20, 30 minutes, but like people like just could not get enough.
The same thing happened with the PlayStation 5. That little tutorial world to what the haptic feedback was like and all
Mm-hmm.
these things that you can play with, people gave that a lot of praise. So it's cool to see technology being where it's at in the gaming world. And I'm going to use that as the perfect segue to go ahead and bash technology that has not been doing their part in the gaming world.
All right.
Um,
I'm always ready for this.
I mean, I'm gonna try not to bash for too long. Just more follow up of what we spoke about at the last episode about NVIDIA. Right, NVIDIA is the big bad wolf currently in the gaming community. Not only because they cut ties with EVGA, or to better state it, EVGA cut ties with NVIDIA. Right, we spoke about it last time. EVGA felt that they were undercut and the relationship wasn't very healthy. It was a very toxic relationship, and EVJ is not the only p- company stating this. Basically, any company that has ever partnered with NVIDIA has stated that it is a very difficult working relationship. But nevertheless, EVGA said what they said, and then a couple days later, NVIDIA had their announcements for what's to come. And this is where the bashing comes in, right? Whatever the relationship between NVIDIA is with all these other companies, so be it. I don't support it. I don't condone it. I think it's horrible practice and that they're going to lose a lot of money and a lot of corporate respect. And honestly, AMD better use this as an opportunity to destroy the competition because the platform has been laid out for them. Um, so NVIDIA comes out with the specs for what's coming. Now, if you use NVIDIA products when it comes to graphics cards, almost always, at least since I started playing games on PC, which was back in 2012, so 10 years, right? There has always been whatever the numbered series is, a 90s card, an 80s card, a 70s card, and eventually a 60s card, later into the year. Um, NVIDIA took a very weird approach with their 4000 series cards. So they announced the 4090 that we all knew was coming, and then they announced the 4080. Now, you would think that the 4070 was next, but no, they announced a second 4080. Already confusion with that. No one understood that tactic, and NVIDIA hasn't really been able to defend it from what I've seen. So that's part one of that problem. The way that they're labeling it is that one of the 4080s, has 16 gigs of VRAM, and the other 4080 has 12 gigs of VRAM. And surface level, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Not all games need 16 gigs or more, and not all um, content creating programs need 16 gigs or more, right? So you might say, all right, they're pricing the 4080 around 1100 and the 16 gigs around 1100, and then the 12 gig 4080 around 800, 700, around there. And that's a significant jump. You might say, I don't mind saving $400 or $500 for 4 gigs of VRAM that I'm not going to use. Cool. What NVIDIA is not announcing is that the VRAM isn't the only thing they're cutting on this 12 gig version of the card. And that is where they become the big bad wolf, not the good guys in the gaming community. Not right now. And I truly hope that they fix it, because by keeping the same name, it is going to mislead a lot of consumers when they go out shopping for cards. They're going to see a 4080 and think that they're going to get a good 4080, and they're going to get a cop out version. So a couple things that is being different between these two, right? Obviously, the VRAM. The other thing is the CUDA cores. With the 16 gigs CUDA core, it is 9700, thereabouts. And the 12 gigs is 7600. Very significant drop in CUDA cores. And again, not going to be announced on the box or anything like that. The only thing that they're going to write is one's 16 gigs and one's 12 gigs. The other thing that they're losing out on is the bus width. So 4080, 16 gigs, it's going to get 256-bit, 12 gigs, 192-bit. That's going to be a performance hindrance that in of itself. The memory speeds for the VRAM, 16 gigs, piping out 23 gigabits per second, and the other one's going to get 21 gigabits per second. Not too much of a difference, but I still think something that consumers should know about. Bandwidth speed, same thing, is going to drop 736 for the higher card, gigabits per second, 504 gigabits per second. Massive drop, right? So it's just bad practice. It is a misleading marketing tactic that they're trying to sell a 4070 spec'd out card as a 4080. It's
Yeah, it's just a complete bad faith marketing at this point.
Yeah.
And it comes from that they have a pretty good monopoly on it, and that
right.
they can kind of do that. So it's incredibly unfortunate.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that if you're just not into diving into the specs of cards, which understandably so, not many people are, they're just going to see a 4080 and say, I know that the 80 part of any of the series cards, those are good cards, right? I can't dish out the 90 version, which was the Titan before the 90 was added. And, understandably so. Usually only massive production or true enthusiasts with, high paying jobs would get the top tier card. Overkill for 90% of the things that people use them for. Understandable. The 80 version of every card makes more sense. It's a lot cheaper and it still packs a punch. So just the fact that they're trying to say the only difference is how much VRAM you're gonna get between the two, it's bad. Like you said, bad faith. It's horseshit, and they should really be held accountable for such tactics. It should just be labeled the 4070, because here's the other thing: there's still rumors that they are going to announce a 4070. They're going to release a card with even worse specs than the 12 gig version of the 4080. And eventually, probably 5 to 6 months from now, they're still going to release a 4060, more likely than not.
That is insane. If they do that 4070, that'll be something.
Slap in the face.
It would, absolutely. And that's just, Tortuga and I are out of the States, right? That's not even taking into account inflation. and prices outside, right? So if we take a look at the current market, almost every currency around the world has been weakened against the US dollar by anywhere from like 10 to 30%, right?
Mm.
So I was reading here like the 4090 will cost closer to $2,100 in Japan.
Wow.
And right, we're talking about scalping level prices just about a year ago.
So I'm glad you
Um,
said that because I did have another note to make. The CEO of NVIDIA did confirm in an interview that they do not plan on making their prices, quote unquote, as affordable as they used to be, mainly because it is costing them a lot more money to produce these cards because of the scarcity that it comes to making all these high end type chips required for these GPUs. So it's not something that's going to be going away anytime soon. Um, Luckily, this time around, we have the benefit of the crypto market being doing poorly. So
Essentially
scalping,
eradicated with that Ethereum merge.
yeah. So it shouldn't be too much of. I mean, still, some scalping still going to go on. People are still going to try to scalp it so that way they can still sell it to gamers who want the best of the best. Because, like I said, those true enthusiasts with high paying jobs will pay whatever dollar it takes to add the latest and greatest into their computer. Right? More power to them if they can afford it, and it's not a big deal. But for the rest of us normal people, it is a big deal, and it's just horrible practice. So only time will tell if the scalping will be as bad as it was the last couple of years. I don't think it will be. I don't see any signs as of yet, unless NVIDIA announces that they have some production issues and they can only limit how much is going to come out at the end of this year. Unless something like that happens, it's not really going to be too big of an issue.
Right, and that the something very important to note there is like a little asterisk is that the prices that we're mentioning right now are MSRP to cover Nvidia's own releases, from the 3000 series and the 4000 series.
Yep.
Third party like Asus, MSI, Gigabyte generally tend to cost more with the with whatever with their manufacturing process.
Yeah, but
So
an asterisk to your asterisk, it costs more, but more often than not, even though it's the same specs technically, it they figure out a way to provide a better cooling for that device and to optimize power better to give you a more steady and a better performance out of that card versus what Nvidia sells. So it's a little bit more costly, but you do get a better product. So
generally, yeah. So a lot of people love to go for the Founders Edition from Nvidia, but like I said, I mentioned it last episode. I'm very partial to Gigabyte, um, and they have not let me down at all.
sure. Yeah, but it's more so for collectors' purposes because that card does look very cool, but it does
Hmm.
not cool very well. It's a downside to the material that they use to make it look the way that it looks. It's definitely for aesthetics and not for performance. Whereas these other companies they gear it more for performance. So it's a trade off, and they only make a limited. Well, they used to only make a limited amount. Who knows what they're going to do with the 4000 series? Again, the founders cards that they started doing undercuts the sales for these other companies that have to pay top dollar for them to even be able to sell the Nvidia products. Where Nvidia doesn't have to buy their own products from themselves, so they can sell it at whatever they want. It's just they've just been I don't know. I feel like this should just be added to business administration schools of how not to operate a business because I haven't they haven't been doing anything that makes sense. But
Well, again, just
the
the monopolization. Wow, where are my words today? The monopolization of the graphics card industry. Remember, it was only even though AMD has been offering cards for a while, it wasn't until recent years where they've come close to matching the power of the Nvidia cards.
sure, but I mean, at still doesn't give you the right to be able to do that. I don't know. It's just they could do so. much good. And not to mention the fact that they under create their products. I'm pretty sure they can make cards that are twice as good as what they're doing right now, but they just hold out. There's no reason to release that because they can just release a 10 or 20% upgrade next year, even though they can do a 200% upgrade next year if they wanted to. It's just, things like that.
No, absolutely. Um, enough on Nvidia because their bad faith is it's not doing it for me. Do you want to kind of touch back on something from last week? I don't know if you had this on your notes there, but apparently the GTA 6 leaker appears to have been arrested. So it's been a kind of a crazy week for
Wild.
Rockstar. Yeah. So
Also, Rockstar confirmed those leaks were valid. Those were
yes.
legit videos. Yeah, I forgot to write that down, but I did make note on my phone, but I didn't add it to my notes. That yeah, they tweeted and they said those videos were real, and we were sorry. This is how you found out where we were in production. We didn't mean it to release it this way, but um, which I, for one, I don't care about leaks. I think leaks is a huge part of the way the gaming world works. I don't know. I don't know why, but I just feel like if something leaks, as long as it's not the source code of the game or the game itself, if it's a snippet of where you're at, I feel like that adds more hype towards it. And it's free marketing because you didn't have to create a story. You didn't have to create visual graphics and pay a marketing team on the best way to lure people in. This is just something that a small Kindle, a small bit of fire to the Kindle, and then it just explodes to something more. And it feels more organic. It feels more natural. And I don't know, when that happens, I receive it a lot better than feeling like I'm being forced to enjoy something. I don't know. It's really hard to put into words, but when something leaks and it's something that I'm looking forward to, it makes me look forward to the game even more.
If it's good.
If it's good, if it's a leak showing how bad it is, I mean, I can understand that if it's a pre-alpha, I'm not really gonna be like what happened with Halo. Well, that wasn't pre-alpha,
Hmm.
but look what happened with Halo. That was their own release, and the
Yeah,
community was like, this is hot garbage. Fix it, and they did. They
they
made a
did.
quality game. But if that video were released beforehand, the community still would have said this is hot garbage, fix it. But it wouldn't have been as bad for Microsoft because they were like, all right, this is what we were gonna release, and the community hates it. Maybe we should make a better video. So you know what I mean? Like I feel like leaking is beneficial in a way. I don't know. If someone has a counter argument as to why leaking is bad for the gaming industry, please share it. I'd be curious to see it. But I only see positive things. Yeah, it sucks. You want to have that wow factor, but everyone knew that GTA 6 was coming out eventually.
This is true. I can definitely see that. I personally, I'm not too crazy about leaks. Like, I wouldn't mind it some screenshots. I guess that's probably my limit. But like with the gameplay, like I don't want to get I didn't want to get too much information. Like we mentioned before, I hate spoilers and things like that. So well,
But
actually, so I guess if it's
what was
spoiler free,
spoiled?
then it's fine. No,
Yeah,
yeah. So
nothing was
that was
spoiled in GTA 6. Yeah, you missed out on a couple snippets of dialogue from the NPCs and a little bit of gameplay being chased by the cops. But nothing spoiled. You know that's what GTA 6 is all about, and that's not
right,
even 1% of the 1% of what's going to be in the game. As long
right.
as they didn't tell you who the protagonist is going to be, who the antagonists are, what you're going to deal with, or spoil the ending or even any part of the story. But none of that happened with GTA 6.
Right.
And a lot of the time, none of that happens with any leak of any game. It's usually just a small part of it, enough to drive energy and hype towards the release of those games.
No, definitely. No, I hear you for sure. And to kind of keep going from this story, so a couple of things that really kind of made me drop my jaw a little bit. So, supposedly the hacker tried to reach out to Rockstar to negotiate with them,
All right,
but
now he's messing up.
but that's there's no confirmation of that. they also did confirm, to kind of jump off of Tortuga's point there, that these hacks, these leaks here, is not going to disrupt development at all. So they are not changing anything. Everything is still going on track, which is good. So it wasn't affected that way. And here's the biggest point, right? So the culprit, it was in London, right? So it's the city of London who kind of took point on this. He was 17 years old, and that's not
Wow.
uncommon. It's not. That's not the part that kind of shocked me on this. It's thinking more on the background. So last week we mentioned that Grand Theft Auto 5 released in 2013 on the 360, and then it's had a couple releases then. This kid was like 7, 8 years old when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, and
That's a
he
good
just
point.
hacked everything for Grand Theft Auto 6. So again, the fact that he didn't isn't surprising because these kids are growing up in a much more digital world than we did. Um, but that guy was like second, third grade when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. That's probably the part that gets me the most out of all this. Um, So, well, hopefully it just kind of keeps going like they said they would. Seeing as how they completely stopped development on Red Dead Redemption 2. And they put like a thank you message on Grand Theft Auto 5 a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
um, that you can look out. So I think it's safe to say that their focus moving forward is going to be GTA 6.
Right. Here's to another 30 years.
Okay. um, kind of continuing on the hacking train here, we had another company that's been hacked this week. This one actually coming from Take Two. Take Two Interactive also suffered a data breach, and they've been warning people to not click on any links unless it comes directly from them. So it's like really make sure that it's coming directly from Take Two support. So if you do have anything with them, right, a lot of the was that basketball, right, 2K. We play Bioshock, so if they made you register that, you're gonna want to update all of your Take Two passwords. Borderlands as well.
Yeah, it's been happening a lot.
It has been. I mean, it's kind of where we are. I know companies that offer an online portal for their customers who have essentially completely disabled any access from any country that's not in the US. So it's caused a major hassle from that aspect for international clients. So they're willing to suffer that heat rather than allow that access because of um, how much the cyber attacks have been increasing in recent years.
Yeah. But it's like you said, we live in a digital age, so it's just you just have to take the precautions, and it just sucks because these companies are taking the precautions, and it's very hard when you have a small team of people, and then the rest of the world, right? That you're safe, you're trying to defend yourself against. Granted, it's only a handful of people, but that's how you look at it, right? It could be any handful of people from the 10 billion people that are on this planet. So it's a very difficult thing to kind of just navigate in the world of cybersecurity. But it's the world that we live in.
It is the world we live
I'm
in.
I'm very curious to see if he the 17-year-old announces how he hacked it. More often than not, he had inside help or was able to get someone to install something that obviously made it very easy.
Some social engineering. Yeah, that seems to be
Yeah,
the common consensus at the moment.
yeah. But if he created whatever they clicked on himself, more power to him. If he just downloaded something that he was YouTubing and it just worked out in his favor, not that much power. And it's very sad that that worked out. But it's just I personally enjoy reading to see how people did the act entirely. It's just fascinating to see how it's done. Plus, it also helps us protect ourselves, seeing what not to fall for.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm not even done on hacks.
But
We have
wait, there's more.
but wait, there's more. Slap. um, Bandai Namco, the ransomware group called Alpha, it's like ALPHV, claimed to have ransomed Bandai Namco back in July, and they said that they actually had obtained uh, quite a good amount of confidential files while hacking the company.
Wow.
And then soon after, Bandai Namco came out and confirmed. So they're doing their own investigation. Kind of same deal. Bandai Namco is not a small publishing company here, a small dev. So make sure to upgrade those passwords as well, which is something you should be doing routinely anyway.
That's true. But no one's going to do it.
No one's gonna do it.
Oh, man.
And last thing for me for the moment is for anyone who has been um, looking forward to the next PlayStation port. We do have Spider-Man Miles Morales coming out soon. So it's the DLC technically, a much shorter campaign than the actual official Spider-Man game. So this Spider-Man Miles Morales kind of became its own thing. So that PC port will be coming out in the next couple months. So it will be out by the end of the year.
Very cool. That was one of the better ones. Good old Subway card.
I was wondering if you're gonna bring that back, and you did not surprise. You did not disappoint at all.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. They mess up on that little bit, but they made the game in California. It's not their fault that they called it a subway car because we call our subways. So you would think, but nope. The only part in the world that doesn't call their trains metros, but we use the metro card because logic.
Yeah, that's one thing the MTA definitely lacks. So
Logic.
yeah, no, you don't understand. It's growing up in New York City. It was definitely something to see. Like they would blame basically everyone that they were partnering with rather than take any accountability on their upgrades. Like they were blaming schools for not paying them, which turned out to not be the case at all. And they were just fumbling their money, but it's all for local politics. Let me not get started here.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a gaming podcast.
Yes. Sorry. MTA just leaves me with this burning rage of hate inside me. So
level of disdain.
So apparently Blizzard came out and was defended their battle pass by saying that nobody really switches heroes that much. And today, a couple of days ago, is now encouraging hero swaps. So, wow, imagine not knowing how to play your own game. So, right,
wow.
they got backlash because many players were frustrated that heroes in the sequel won't be free like the first game, right? We discussed that. Right. We gave our thoughts on that. So it can potentially, limit your ability to swap heroes. So Blizzard detailed a list of balance changes coming to Overwatch 2. And a lot of the changes are responses to feedback and testing, from the 2 betas or whatever. And one of the biggest changes on the list is that there are passives, given to a lot of heroes across tank, damage, and support. In the June beta, I believe it was, damage characters were given a passive that lets them keep up to 30% of their ultimate charge when the player swaps from one hero to another. And now every role will have that particular passive. And the one of the examples that were given was, let's say, Reinhardt isn't doing what he needs to be doing, right? Well, as you're controlling him, you swap over to Roadhog. Well, if you have Reinhardt at 80% and you swap over to like Roadhog, you'll start at 30%.
That's better because that was annoying.
That was annoying. So basically, you have to play until you can use your ult, and then that's what I would do, and then I would swap over after.
And then swap, yeah. But sometimes
Um,
you can wait because the healer just decided to just switch over to something else. And you're like,
right.
well,
I need
yeah.
healing. Um,
All right, Kenji, go.
so it's kind of crazy to see that with these passives and the launches that they're encouraging players to engage with hero swapping from their previous stance of stating that people don't even switch that much anyway. So thought
No,
that
that's
was kind of
comical.
funny. That is that you couldn't write a better story. It's just
Facts.
insane how these corporations just are so blind to their own game.
Well, all they care about is the formula that brings them the most money,
That
which is
is
wild. Clearly, the people that work on PR, they aren't the devs or the engineers, and they also didn't run it through them or by them. They just
not even
they just did.
remotely.
They just went, with the PR playbook. But the outside world only sees one entity, not the thousands of fucking parts that are involved into running a company as massive as Blizzard. So that's
This
still
this is
still bad
true.
on Blizzard.
hmm Um, for anyone who's interested in the new Resident Evil games, like 7 and 8, to be specific, that focuses on the Winters family, and apparently the next DLC will conclude that family storyline in the Resident Evil story.
Woohoo!
Woohoo. I can't believe that Cyberpunk 2077 is the
I thought we were gonna get through one episode.
Bro, we got to talk about it, man. It's been seeing such a big climb of concurrent users after that Edge Runners anime or the Edge Runners show. It's pretty insane how media from there, because it takes place in the same night city as the game, has a lot of the lore being brought over. You get a glimpse of like Adam Smasher in there. You go to the Afterlife bar. The voice acting was phenomenal. It was great, man. If you haven't watched it, I'm telling you, you got to do it. You got to do yourself that favor.
Sure, eventually. I mean, I saw the trailer for what it's worth.
I will take it. But yeah, where Cyberpunk is kind of boasting like 1 million players per day at the moment.
Wow, that is actually a number is surprising me. I didn't expect it to be that damn high. That's
Yeah.
that's like that's like launch day numbers that you would expect from
Yes.
a game.
Yeah, it got its own revival. I mean, they will always have that stink of the initial launch, but as time goes on, they've released updates. Their Nexus mods. I don't know if you knew this, right? So I'm sure you know of Nexus mods,
Yep.
but they also I want to say it's got to be like a year or two now, but they've started doing collections where it's basically you download a bundle of mods that someone has curated. Um, so it's like one full mod that offers a bunch of mods together
Sure.
to completely enhance the game. So one of the more famous or popular downloaded ones is called Welcome to Night City, and it has like so much from like reshades to some key bindings, some extra DLC costumes. So it's like a whole bunch of things that if you're planning to check it out, I would start there. Um, I saw I saw a streamer using it, and it was pretty intense to see something that I've played, many times over because I had to get all the endings. Um, so I put in a lot of time at the beginning, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm done here. I don't want to play with you anymore. Um,
And yet
so
here you
seeing like,
are.
and here I am, just I actually played last night, so it was kind of crazy.
Secrets from last night.
I know what you did last night. Um, and then have you played Multiversus at all?
No, I don't know what that is.
So we touched on it very very lightly, but basically it's a free to play Super Smash Brothers using characters from all over. Right, we're talking Superman, Batman, Bugs Bunny, Shaggy. And it plays just like Super Smash Brothers. It's just free to play by Warner Brothers. And the latest news from it is that Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty is coming very very soon to as a
You know,
playable character.
WB is a good IP controller for a Smash style game. That's actually pretty cool. Disney's another one that, if they ever wanted to, can just make a pretty fantastic Smash style game with a lot that they have control
They
over
could
now.
have. PlayStation tried. I don't even remember the PlayStation. Was it All Star Battle or something like that? They
Sounds
had. They
familiar.
also have. They also have a pretty good roster, but their
Nickelodeon
mechanics
made
just
one.
Nickelodeon made one, which actually, but did it come out? I don't remember it coming out.
I don't know if
I
it came
vaguely
out, but I know
remember
they
being
made one.
announced. So I remember that talking about that for sure, and that one they can have a great roster. They can really rip your soul out with the nostalgia factor for
Yeah.
sure.
I want to say Avatar also made one, or that might have been fan made, but I do. No, that might have been under Nickelodeon. I think Toph is in that game.
I have no idea. I got nothing for you on that.
I want to say it's that game, and Toph is just doing Airbender stuff. I mean Earthbender stuff. Um, I think Aang is also in there. But anyways, yeah, it is. It has potential to just be just a fun party game. Nothing to take serious. So,
hmm My
can you
only
imagine just getting smashed by Arnold?
bro, my buddy Henry, Simply South, he was dominating with the Iron Giant. It was pretty crazy to see. And
Sounds
he
broken,
was wiping. Yeah, apparently he was because they had to nerf him like twice.
bro.
I did want to touch on something, kind of going back to the Steam Deck a little bit. But apparently Logitech is coming out with a handheld gaming console. It's called
Why?
the Logitech G Cloud gaming handheld, and it's pretty interesting. So as you can tell by the name, it's going to be solely cloud based device. Button layout's going to be right A B X Y. Thanks Super Nintendo for that. And it's boasting about a 7-inch screen. I think that's what we have for the Nintendo Switch OLED model.
Yeah,
So
but whose
yes,
games are they showing? What is it connecting to? Whose service?
I
Because they don't make games.
they do not make games, so I'm sure you'll be able to connect it to a couple things. So let's take a look here. It's taking right libraries, going straight for the AAA. So it's going to work with NVIDIA GeForce Now. So
Huh?
whatever service connect to that,
I
and
think
or
that you have to
Xbox
pay
Game
for that.
Pass. For
Also,
the
another one you
GeForce
have to
Now,
pay
you
for.
do. Yep, yep. So you will have to pay for those two. Um, they're boasting, 60 hertz refresh rate with a 1920 by 1080 resolution.
It's just why. I mean, I know they just want to cut from the market. I get
Yeah.
it, but they're not a player.
Mhm.
Not in that realm. They make accessories, peripherals that
Right.
we
So
love and enjoy. So stay in your lane. I mean,
I I hear you. I hear you 100%. For anyone who is interested in this, I'm actually like I don't even play MLB 22 on Game Pass because it's cloud only. It's just I don't know what it is. I think the cloud is great. For I use it for a whole bunch of other things, but for streaming games, when you can just make it available for download, where I can trust my SSD or my M.2 to support the game, just cloud gaming doesn't really do it for me. Like if
yeah,
you take advantage to it, more power to you. Like I'm glad you have that availability. I tested it with like Psychonauts 2. If I was in the middle of working and I wanted to, play on my tablet or my phone or something like that, then I tested it for like a week and it was like I can't. And it's not even a very intensive game.
yeah.
Um
We're
Microsoft did a
not.
great job at the connectivity portion of it for sure, but it just didn't feel as great as right off of my drive.
Yeah, we're not at a point in technology where that can be supported everywhere. Obviously, there are places that's going to thrive on internet connection and not necessarily see any issues, but there are more rural parts of the world than they are metropolitan.
Right.
Um, but it's a numbers game. There are more people in metropolitan places than there are in the rural parts. It's a very hard word to say, rural.
Rural, yes.
Rural. Anyways, obviously
um,
they're gonna market to the masses, and that's gonna be metropolitan cities. And they're
exactly.
just gonna say sucks to suck for the rest of us.
Yeah. This for anyone interested, listening to this at the time of recording on September 24th. They do currently have a discounted price of $299 um, before launch, and that offer is available until October 17th, where it will go to $349.99.
I mean, it's a sweet deal for what, but it's essentially you have. If they would have partnered with one of these game service providing companies, even Amazon, they could have done business with, right, with the Luna, I think is what it's
That
called.
would have been a win-win for them.
Yeah. Even if they would have partnered with something like that, right? Because Luna is not great from what I've seen. I mean, they're still going forward with it for whatever reason. So something like that would have made a lot more sense. But this is essentially just a computer, right? That you can hold in your hand, not a cell phone, to connect to services that are providing these games. It's just weird that they're creating a device like a that they're not solved. There's no demand. There wasn't a problem that they're solving with this technology. They're just making it. That's
Right.
that's why I'm just having a hard time just understanding why it even exists. I understand Steam doing it makes sense. They sell games, and they want you to enjoy your games on the go. Cool. Xbox could have done it, would have made sense. Amazon could have done it, would have made sense. NVIDIA did do it, and it was garbage. But um,
What's the
it's
matter with you?
just they did make a handhold thing that connected to the Shadow GeForce thing, whatever it was called. It wasn't great. Um, so it's just I just find it weird, but we'll see if anyone gets it. And I'm sure when the spec come out, we'll see. Maybe I'll eat my words, and it's like the best damn handheld device in history. And Steam
Uh,
Deck gets put to shame or something. Who knows? I mean, LG
Cloud
does make good
only,
products.
they do, but their product isn't gonna help their internet connectivity in any way.
You're
So
100% correct. I just don't understand why they're in this space. It's an odd play. But we'll see. I mean,
Miss
Epic when Epic started creating their own game platform, there was a lot of like, why are you doing this? You're a game developer, not a game publisher. So I mean,
oh,
they're a
that
game
one was easy
publisher and
though.
developer, but they
That
were
was
over here
easy.
taking amassing all these other companies.
They were doing that, but they wanted to it's like a war they started with that cut that they take. So right, remember the Apple versus Epic fiasco? It was the same thing with Steam. They just didn't
Yeah,
take them to court. It was just to give them a competitor.
yeah. No, I know, but I'm just saying like Epic just put a foot into the market is what I'm saying, and it's what LG is doing with this device. It's just a very weird move. Just weird.
Yeah. Bringing our good old buddies at Twitch back in the news once again. These people they're doing something. So Twitch streamers are upset that Amazon Twitch is taking more of their money at this point. So the earlier in the middle of the week, the president of Twitch, Dan Clancy, announced that there's going to be a change to the revenue system that would mean that a lot of the top performing Twitch streamers will get less money. According to Clancy, Twitch was making those changes in order to afford increasing server costs. Stated that the changes would not affect the vast majority of creators, but the blog post itself upset a lot of people who felt that Twitch was taking too much money and offering too little support. For those of you who don't
Um,
remember, mhm.
I'm sorry. I just have to just say it out loud real quick. The server costs are determined by Amazon, who owns Twitch.
Ain't that something?
So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it
So
at that.
yep, but we can definitely circle back to that if you want to do some more bashing of these corp companies
Nope.
who.
It's just
Okay.
just I already said it out loud. We already know how that doesn't make sense in the game that they're playing.
Previously, Twitch, again owned by Amazon, had offered a special price, if you will, a 70-30 revenue split for content creators who grew their viewership, while most streamers split their revenue 50-50 within the platform. The changes would keep the 70-30 ratio on the first $100,000 for those who were grandfathered into that deal. But beyond that, every dollar above that amount will be split evenly back to the 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah. So Clancy did acknowledge that around 22,000 creators had asked Twitch to move everyone to the 70-30 mode, but they said they won't do that because, oh man, these companies are something. Are you ready? I don't think you're ready for this. Um, Twitch said that the company won't move in that direction because Amazon Web Services cost too much money. I'm
Jesus.
telling you, man, these people should write stand up at this point.
I mean, I have no words. It's I have no words.
Like,
Um,
can you imagine being overcharged by your own sister company?
your parent company, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
but it's just one of those things. Like, take it up with Amazon, get a get a discount to reel in more people. I feel like this is not very hard to understand. You want more content creators. You want to reel more people. This is going to give more business to YouTube and Facebook. I think those are the only other two streaming platforms right now for gaming. There are smaller other ones like how Beam.io was before Microsoft bought it. There are some other streaming services for gaming, but the other top two contenders just Facebook and YouTube. And this is just like people are just going to switch over to that where they're going to receive a better payout. I personally don't like Facebook streaming service, and YouTube is okay. I still think Twitch is the best option for how they handle streaming. But if people are going to do what's going to make them the most money, and I feel like Twitch is not caring about that. But here's the other thing: because of how many lucrative streamers there are, there's still going to be a lot of people trying to quote unquote make it, or
right.
they're waiting for their big break, and they're going to stick with Twitch because Ninja did it through Twitch, Doctor Disrespect did it through Twitch, Shroud did it through Twitch. You can name all these top tier streamers. But I'm very curious to see what the top named streamers are saying about this. I'm sure they're not happy about it, but I'm very curious to see what they actually say.
I actually have one quote from one of them here. Big E.
Pokemon, come on
Oh
down. Oh
no,
no,
Joe, bro,
no,
you can't talk to her. You can't sub to her because she has a boyfriend now. Remember?
and that affects me how in real life?
Or you remember there's just that hilarious controversy where people found out she was seeing someone and were mad
No,
that.
I remember. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that's how they should have treated that.
yeah. So Big E over here, pretty big streamer on Twitch. He put something out after the announcement. He's like, here at Twitch, we believe in manipulating our creators into thinking Twitch is the only place where you can be successful. We do this by
Told you.
giving everyone a false sense of hope, an easy path to affiliation. This is, of course, to hook you in so you can spend 4 years of your life grinding for Twitch partner. He pointed out that the partner program didn't provide any additional benefits and that the company relied on streamers becoming big on a different platform before bringing their audience to Twitch. Feel like you're being screwed here? That's okay because you are.
Yep, that
So
is
that
all correct.
Yep, and they're not wrong at all. Um, if someone were so inclined to really make a statement, and this would have to come with the top cream of the crop Twitch streamers here, in addition to anyone who supports this, if you really wanted to make a statement, it would have to be with TwitchCon. Um, they I don't know. Does Twitch really care about creator success? That's gonna have
Nope.
to be what it boils down. So
Well,
people are
I
saying
shouldn't
that
say no. I should say they do care about their success. They don't care about the creators, though.
that'll do it. I think that's a very fair way to put it. Um, so the main thing, the main focus that these streamers should take into account is boycotting TwitchCon. That's
Oh
really,
yeah,
that's gonna be the way to really, hurt them in their pockets. We always say that you gotta hit them
it's
in
not
their
gonna happen
pockets.
because Twitch is gonna say, "Here's $1 million for you to show up for the day."
We'll see. We shall see.
I'm telling you, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
I did have one minor thing. It's pretty technical. I know we're kind of going on and on here, but I'm sure you are familiar um, with PCI SIG.
No.
They're a nonprofit company. Um, it's the Peripheral Component Interconnect Special Interest Group. They're an electronics industry consortium, right? They're responsible for specifying PCI, PCIX, and the PCI Express buses. Um, and they actually put a warning out for power supplies. So we're currently on, I believe, Gen 5 of PSUs, right? Power supplies. And there's a warning of a potential overcurrent or overpower risk with the 12-volt horsepower connectors using non ATX 3.0 PSU and Gen 5 adapters. So apparently, kind of put that in layman terms. Um, they're at about, I think, like 600 watts right now, is what the maximum is, or the standard is. And apparently these new power supplies are looking to push that limit even further. So there's basically a chance that you can cause a literal fire in your power supply with the current Gen 5 adapter, to meet those specs.
That's scary.
That is scary. So the official letter from them essentially says, please be advised that PCI SIG has become aware that some implementations of the 12-volt horsepower connectors and assemblies have demonstrated thermal variance, which could result in safety issues under certain conditions. Although PCI SIG specifications provide necessary information for interoperability, they do not attempt to encompass all aspects of proper design, relying on numerous industry best known methods and standard design practices. There's just an excerpt there. Essentially, you're gonna have to keep an eye on your power supply if you are looking to upgrade your graphics card.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that the power draw for the 4000 series is up there. Please do your research because most likely than not, what you have now will not even come close to what you need.
Yeah, I think I have 800, 850 on mine,
Yeah,
and
it's not gonna be enough.
yep. So and mine was, I want to say mine was gold too. So it's not
I
gonna be
want
enough
to
if we
say
want
the
an upgrade.
lowest you need is 1000,
Makes sense,
but I might be wrong on that. And it also depends on the power draw of your CPU. So whatever it
right?
has,
Because you have everything in there for your
right,
motherboard, CPU, all that
right.
good stuff.
So
Um,
there's calculators out there. Just be careful. Do your research.
all right, it's gonna be it for me, broski.
Sweet. Well, the only thing I had planned today was to bash NVIDIA, and I feel like I did a good job on that. NVIDIA still sucks. So thank you all for hanging out with us yet another episode. As always, if you want to show us support, share our podcast with someone you think would enjoy this. Always reach out to us on Twitter at 2guys1level. Let us know what you thought of this episode and what you would like to hear at future episodes. So thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time.